do I start this? Let's start this by hitting the on button and then going on. So, my name is Rick. I'm a designer. Designers think a lot. And this particular designer thinks a ton about typography, actually, is really my big deal. Anything that's got to do with words or letters is my story. I love it. And so, this is the study of typography. It's pretty simple, and it's pretty modern, too. It's only about really 400 or 500 years old. But this is the conversation that dominates my universe. It's the conversation of whether the most popular typeface of our time is better than the most ubiquitous typeface of our time. So with that in mind, this is my experience, and I think, and this is part of the hubris of this kind of like stage and the spot and everything else, I think I'm kind of smart, and I like thinking I'm kind of smart. But every now and then, I realize that even though I'm all of these things, and I make really cool things that explain away the details and give people access to complicated problems, and even still give people access to things that I care a lot about, like the definition of graphic design, which I coined about 3 years ago. And my friend said, "This is like completely inaccessible, Rick." And I said, "Okay, let me annotate it for you." And so, but then some things are just not that complicated. Design relies in great part on the recognition of need. And in this case, we're talking about Floyd Baltz, the third grade teacher of my eldest daughter, who invited me to participate, like many other parents should, in their public school experience. "Hi, Floyd. My name is Rick. I love letters. I love words. Oh, Rick, it would be perfect for you to give our spelling test every Thursday." "Really?" "Floyd, we are best friends already." So, upon arrival at Floyd Baltz's third grade classroom, where my daughter was and all of her friends, it posed a very serious question. Because this is what they spend time doing when the spelling test has been called to order, right? 8 to 9-year-olds. Now, I don't know how many of you guys in the audience that are in their 20s, 30s, or 40s, but, I mean, how many of us can really tear a sheet of paper in half perfectly anyway? This is roughly the equation. 15 minutes per week for the test, 38 tests roughly per year, 9.5 hours spending tearing paper in half and getting order back in your classroom. So we have a big cutting machine. It's a widower maker. If you do it wrong, it chops off all your fingers, right? Yeah, so we've got a cutter. We can cut paper. That's not really the whole story, because designers like to overthink things a little bit, right? And the nature of design thinking is to say, well, what if we can put ourselves in touch with a resource? Now, this is a very typical problem. It's called surplus over here, need over here, logistics connects the surplus to the need. And so what we've been doing in our studio is finding high-use, high-waste environments where paper, unkissed paper, never been touched, never been looked at even the wrong way, in large formats, is readily available to be rescued out of the stream of industrial waste. So we capture it. We therefore save somebody $50 per ton in recycling, and we redirect this industrial waste into a possible surplus for its highest and best use over here in the school. So this is what we did. We took the paper, we printed lines on it, we printed some space on it that would maybe say, "Hey, what's your name, kid? Hey, what's the date today?" Practice pads for you to take home, test pads for you to take to school, for you to take the test at school, and they're free by request. All you have to do is know about it. And we have to have it, and you can get it for free. And this is the product. It's called SpellRite. It even says, "Great job." And this is the pad in use, and this is me giving spelling tests. So one of the questions is why? I think this is critical. I think we're at a time and place where this might be the most important thing I have to say to this many people ever. And because what I do, I believe that this is also the case. It's about action and chain reactions. It's about inspiring people to play a role in their public school that is important, you know? That isn't about throwing money at it, it's about bringing your skill set to the table, every time. And when we think about that, I think we've got the potential, the enormous potential for a great future. I have a friend who's 75 years old, and he said to me, Rick, I've stopped worrying. I said, why? He goes, because if you don't solve it, I know for a fact your kids will. He believes in the fact that my generation can create the most fertile space for our children to hold us accountable and to not repeat our mistakes or to repeat the mistakes of our parents. Now, I know it's completely complicated, and this is public school we're talking about. I'm not even remotely an expert. So, because I believe in putting the right resource in the right place at the right time, I'm donating the last 90 seconds of my talk to somebody who does know what they're talking about. You should meet this guy. His name is Van Scholz, and he's the Executive Director of Education Reform Now.
Thanks, Rick. I thought it would be helpful to put a little context on Colorado public education. So you can see there's lots of stuff. It's a big, complicated system with some fairly mixed results. If you go to Colorado public schools, you have about a 1 in 3 chance of knowing math at the high school level. About a 1 in 2 chance of being able to write at the high school level, and 3 in 4 chance of graduating from high school. If you're poor in Colorado, 1 in 10 chance of getting a college degree. If you're not poor, somewhere between a 3 and 4 chance of getting a college degree. So, this system was really a fantastic design. It was the best design ever. And those results that I just talked about were really the best results. And they had been the best results for most of the last century. They stopped being the best results sometime around the late 70s, early 80s. That was then, as I don't need to tell any of you, the world has changed pretty dramatically. American public education is really the only institution that hasn't changed much in the last century. Even the post office can deliver a box or a piece of mail the next day now. Schools have remained mostly the same. So, why am I giving you all of this? Well, there's a whole body of folks, not a big enough one, and that's why we're talking to you, that are engaged in what's probably the biggest redesign effort of American public education since the last century. Race to the top here in Colorado, President Obama's effort at trying to redesign public schools is just one example. There are lots of other examples. And the challenge is what all of us together can do to make sure that more kids are more educated at higher levels. So what to do about that? Well, one thing you can do is there's a movie that's coming out in a few months, Waiting for Superman. It's made by the same guy that did Inconvenient Truth, made by Davis Guggenheim. You could pledge to go see the movie, and by doing so, there'll be more theaters and there'll be more people getting educated. So, Rick?
My TED challenge is that you should demand an education position with details from every candidate for every position in your government every time.
Redesign. And I'll just close with redesign requires political action. And political action requires understanding and engagement. So get engaged.
Thank you so much, guys.